Hello there, Professor Warsi here. This is the last lesson in the series of past tense lessons, all verb tenses in the past. Okay, so let's just recap. We studied the simple past tense. We also studied the past progressive tense. We studied the past perfect tense. And the last verb tense in the past is the past perfect progressive tense. Okay? Learn how to describe ongoing actions completed before a point in the past. All right, let's start. Today's objectives are understand the past perfect progressive tense and identify when to use it in context. If you remember, if you took the previous 3 lessons, you know that there are contexts, there are special situations when a certain verb tense is used. We will also learn how to form sentences with proper structure, with the correct structure. Okay, so let's begin. What is the past perfect progressive tense? This tense shows an action that was ongoing. Remember, it's called progressive. That means it refers to an action that was continuing, that was ongoing in the past. Okay, before a specific time. So remember, this isn't like past progressive, that I was taking a shower when somebody called. It happened before something happens, not concurrently, not at the same time. So he had been studying for 2 hours before the exam started. Okay, or they had been working hard before the project was completed. Okay, very good. So when do we use this tense? When do we use the past perfect progressive tense? There are situations where we use this tense. When we want to emphasize the duration of an action before another past event. So remember, in the past progressive tense, there are 2 actions, right? But one action happened earlier, and then something else happened at a point. So she had been waiting for an hour before he arrived, right? So before this person arrived, another person, in this case she, had been waiting for an hour. So she waited and waited and waited. She had been waiting for an hour. So that's the duration of the action. For how long? An hour. She had been waiting for an hour before he arrived. Also, when we describe the cause of a past situation, right? For example, this person looks really, really tired and exhausted. Why? Because it's the effect of a cause. He was tired, that's an effect. Why was he tired? Because he had been working all night. Poor thing. He had been working all night. As a result, obviously he was tired. You would be tired too. If you had been working all night and you didn't get a good night's sleep, you'll be very tired. Okay? How do we structure the past progressive tense? Past perfect progressive tense is structured in the affirmative sentences. Subject plus had and been, right? And the verb is ing. And you know why that is, right? Because it's an ongoing action. It's the past perfect progressive tense. So she had been reading, right? They had been sleeping. Negative. Very easy. You learned this before. Add not. Just one word. So she had been reading. She had not been reading. That becomes a negative sentence. They had been sleeping. They had not been sleeping. And how do we make it an interrogative sentence? Just move the had before the subject, right? So, had you been running? Or they had been running. Past perfect progressive. Running, ongoing action. They had been running. How do we ask a question? Had they been running? Yes, they had been running. Or, no, they had not been running. Okay? Some common time expressions for this tense, for the past perfect progressive tense, are for 2 hours. for 3 days. That's the duration, right? Since a specific time, since 5 p.m. or since last night, since last week. Arindam had been watching TV since 5 p.m. Okay? And the first example is Cynthia had been doing her homework for 2 hours before her mother arrived. Right? So what was the ongoing action in the past? Cynthia had been doing her homework. She had not finished doing her homework. And she had been doing this for 2 hours before what happened? Before mom came. Okay? All right. So let's look at some examples of the past perfect progressive tense in the affirmative. She had been studying for 3 hours before her friends called. They had been playing soccer all afternoon when it started to rain. Now, do you notice the time expression there? Before, when, before, and then before again in the fifth sentence. So these are all affirmative sentences. So take some time, okay? Take it all in, absorb it, go through each question carefully, and pay attention to the past perfect progressive tense. All right? Very good. Negative sentences. You know how to do that, right? That's the easiest part. All you have to do is take an affirmative sentence and add not after the had word. She had not been studying. Let's see. She had been studying for 3 hours before her friends called. She had not been studying for 3 hours before her friends called. Okay? They had been playing soccer all afternoon when it started to rain. They had not been playing soccer all afternoon when it started to rain. Okay? So go through the rest of them, 3, 4, and 5. I just read out loud number 1 and 2. You do the rest. Okay? Now let's look at some interrogative sentences here. Had she been studying for 3 hours before her friends called? Had they been playing soccer all afternoon when it started to rain? What would be an affirmative sentence? They had been playing soccer all afternoon when it started to rain. Let's make it a negative sentence. They had not been playing soccer all afternoon when it started to rain. Question. Had they been playing soccer all afternoon when it started to rain? So these are the interrogative sentences. Very good. Now, let's compare the two, because you just finished, I think you did. The previous lesson was on the past perfect tense. So you just finished, if you did, learning the past perfect tense, and now we're learning the past perfect progressive tense. How do we compare the two? Okay, past perfect focuses on the completion of an action that was completed, an action that was finished. She had finished her homework before dinner. Now, what's the difference? Do you notice the difference between the two tenses? Well, the major difference, and I would even say the main difference between the two is that the past perfect progressive has a verb ing, working, sleeping, doing, eating, cooking. But the first one has the ed end, right? The past perfect. She had finished her homework. She had, and then the past tense, the ed, the past participle form. She had finished her homework. But here, it does not say in the past perfect progressive, it does not say she had worked on her homework for an hour. That would be a different tense. This says she had been working. So remember that ing form, the verb, is very important, is the center of this past perfect progressive tense. She had been working on her homework for an hour. Okay, let's complete this exercise now. Fill in the blanks. If you took my other lessons, you are familiar with this type of exercise. So there's she, the subject. There's a blank space after that. And there's a verb in parentheses, study. So let's try. I believe in you. I know that you will do it, because these are not that very hard exercises. It's just practice for you to fully understand how to use the past perfect progressive tense. Okay. Pause the video, complete the exercise, and we'll go over the answers. Okay, number 1 is had been studying. Number 2 is had been playing, had been waiting. What 2 things do you see in common in all of these 5 sentences? They all have had been, right? He had been, because it's the progressive tense. So you can't say he had studied. That would be the past perfect tense, correct? Had been playing. And we also notice something common, that all of the verbs end with ing. The suffix is ing. Had been playing, had been waiting, had been working, had been living. Okay? All right. So I hope you're doing a good job completing all of these exercises. Okay. Now write your own sentences. I just given you one example. So you have she practiced piano for how long? For 2 hours. Now can you put these words together and create a complete sentence using the past perfect progressive tense? So I give you one example. She studied homework 3 hours, right? And I wrote the sentence for you just as an example, so you use that as a model. She had been studying. Remember, had been, we just learned. She's the subject. She had been studying, ing, studying her homework for 3 hours before her friends called, right? She had been studying, she had been completing, or she had been doing her homework, okay, for 3 hours before her friends called. Okay? All right. So these are the answers. These are all of the sentences that I created for you. She had been playing the piano for 2 hours before her lesson started. Okay? So I'm sure you did a great job writing sentences using these words together. Very good. Now, if you are still confused, if you still have questions in your mind, and you want to know, why did I get this wrong, Professor Warsi? Please ask, okay? I'm not getting many questions from you. I would like to interact with you. So as you take lessons, be sure to ask questions, okay? Because this is not an end in itself. Learning is forever. Learning is perpetual. So continue to work hard, continue to take lessons with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.